Good morning. I just wanted to share some thoughts from my Bible reading this morning. Been reading in Galatians and came to chapter number 6, and some things stuck out to me I wanted to share with you, and hopefully they'll be a blessing to you as well. Galatians chapter number 6, verse 7, Paul writes, "Be not deceived, God is not mocked, for whatsoever a man soweth, that shall he also reap. For he that soweth to his flesh shall of the flesh reap corruption, but he that soweth to the Spirit shall of the Spirit reap life everlasting. But let us not be weary in well-doing, for in due season we shall reap, if we faint not." And the idea of sowing and reaping is a common theme you'll find in the Bible. Jesus spoke about it in a few of his parables and reminds us of some principles of sowing, and Paul speaks of it here. But when Jesus spoke of sowing, he was talking about sowing the seed, the Word of God. Paul is talking about it here as sowing our works, and that is what it is we do. But there were three things that stuck out to me in this passage that were a blessing to me, and I just wanted to share them today. In verse 7 it reads, "Be not deceived, God is not mocked. For whatsoever a man soweth, that shall he also reap." And here Paul is reminding us to be careful what it is we sow. What it is we sow, or, if you will, what it is we do. For what we do has a way of coming back to us. In fact, he even says, "Be not deceived, God is not mocked." There is no way that we can violate this idea of what it is we sow is what it is we will reap. That's a law that's built into nature. You see it all around us. I mean, what we put into the ground is what we can expect is going to come back up out of the ground, and it's no different for us too. The works that we put into our life have a tendency to grow and come back to us. It's such a universal principle that people talk about it that aren't even Christians. They talk about it as karma. They'll say, "Oh, karma came back to get that person." But in reality, it's not karma at all. It is a biblical principle that is sown into the very fabric of our universe. What we do will come back. So the question that has to be asked when you read this is, what do you want to come back? What you want to come back is what you have to put out. What you put out will come back to you. So Paul warns us, or at least tells us, to take notice of what it is we sow. What it is we sow, we will reap. If we sow kindness, we will reap kindness. If we sow animosity or hatred, we will reap animosity or hatred. If we sow the truth, we'll reap the truth. If we sow lies, we'll reap lies back, or deceit back to us. So what it is we sow, we will reap. Paul says, watch what you sow. But he goes on a little bit in verse 8 and tells us, watch where you sow. He says, "For he that soweth to his flesh shall of the flesh reap corruption, but he that soweth to the Spirit shall of the Spirit reap life everlasting." And here Paul, up to this point, Paul had been building a case about living after the flesh and living after the Spirit. He reminds us that the two are very contrary, that they're very different, and that we cannot serve both at the same time. We will serve our flesh, or we will serve the Spirit. The flesh leads to destruction in this life, and if we never trust Christ and we live completely for ourselves, never trust Christ, a destruction in the world to come. But the Spirit, if we trust Christ, and God does give us the Spirit when we trust Christ, but if we sow to the Spirit in this life, we shall in this life reap the benefits of everlasting life. Now, of course, we're going to struggle. We're in this flesh, but God has given us a spirit by which we can transcend the temptations and the lust of the flesh and live after the Spirit. In fact, in Galatians 5, Paul talks about that, the fruit of the lust of the flesh and the fruit of the Spirit, or the works of the flesh and the fruit of the Spirit, and how they're at war the one with the other. So Paul reminds us here, not only be careful what you sow, be careful where you sow. That is, don't sow a life that is completely consumed of the fleshly desires, but sow works or sow deeds to the Spirit and the spiritual life. That is, walk in the Spirit. Walk with God. Spend time with God. Spend time in the Word of God. This right now is an excellent opportunity to strengthen your walk with the Lord. Oftentimes as Christians, we rely on those church services week by week to provide our spiritual strength. But we also have spiritual nourishment right here in the Word of God that we can then take the time and nourish and strengthen during a time when we can't come to church. So I encourage you, sow to your spirit during this time and not just to the flesh. It's very easy to fall into a pattern of just living every day, doing what we want. We're kind of out of schedule. Maybe some folks aren't working right now, so it's very easy to slide into this just living what it is I want to do every day, and living after the flesh every day, and serving the flesh every day throughout the day. But Paul reminds us, spend time sowing to our spirit with spiritual activities. So be careful what it is you sow. Be careful where it is you sow. And then he says in the last thing here, verse 9, and let us not be weary in well-doing, for in due season we shall reap if we faint not. And he tells us to take care how long it is we sow or how much we sow. What he's saying here is eventually we will reap. Now, we may not reap tomorrow. We may not reap today. We may sow today and see no harvest, and that's expected at times. I mean, if I go outside and plant some seeds and I want to grow a tree, I can't expect that that tree is going to grow overnight. It takes time. But what Paul does remind us is this: take care how long it is you sow or how long it is you're willing to sow, because in due season you will reap if you don't faint. What he's saying is this: as a Christian, it takes time to see a harvest. We say, oh, we tried doing the right thing and it just didn't pan out. We'll try again. Oh, we tried giving out what was right or doing those things which were good, but it just didn't seem to benefit. I'm saying to you, try again. Paul said we'll reap if we don't faint. Just want to encourage you today. Watch what it is you sow. Make sure that what you're sowing is the right thing, because what you sow is what you get. I want to encourage you today to be careful where you sow. Make sure that you're sowing to the Spirit and not just to the flesh, or not to the flesh, because the lusts of the flesh are destructive, whereas the works of the Spirit are constructive for our spiritual life. And lastly, take care to continue to sow, especially during this time where we can't meet together at the church right now. God bless you. If you have any needs, please let us know. We'll be happy to help in any way we can. God bless, and we'll see you again soon.